Just listen once. Today, you're going to activate Thoth's most powerful secrets to eliminate fear from your life and start becoming invincible. What if the fear that's holding you back isn't even yours? In 10 seconds, I'll prove to you that it can lose its grip right now. Hand on your chest. Inhale through your nose for 4. Hold for 2. Exhale for 6. And whisper inside, I return control to my center. Did you feel your body relax a bit? That's the first secret lit. What's coming next isn't theory. It's knowledge guarded for millennia, distilled into simple steps you apply as you listen. Each step opens a door, and in the end, it all makes sense. So don't skip. In the last few seconds, I'll reveal Thoth's sealing phrase, the short key that locks courage into the body and closes the old path of fear. If you leave early, you'll miss the piece that makes the whole mechanism work. Breathe. Look within. The fear that seemed like the owner is just a visitor. I'm going to guide you part by part, and you'll feel the shift as you go, ready to walk through the first door. Whenever someone is about to change, a guardian appears. He doesn't knock on your door to announce himself. He shows up subtly, sometimes as a thought you don't even notice isn't yours. Other times, as an unexpected situation that makes you hesitate, question, or give up. And this guardian wears many faces. It could be an obstacle that seems impossible, criticism from someone close, a sudden loss, or even that suffocating wave of insecurity that hits right when you're ready to take a decisive step. Fear, from this angle, stops being just an uncomfortable emotion and becomes a carefully designed spiritual test. It's not there by chance. Its purpose is to measure if you're ready to move forward or still need to stay where you are. The ancient schools of wisdom, from the Egyptian temples to the initiatic traditions of the East, spoke of this symbolic figure, a guardian positioned at the portal, challenging anyone who dared to cross. This guardian doesn't care about titles, knowledge, or fancy words. He senses the real vibration you carry. He knows whether your desire to change is just a fleeting impulse or a decision coming from the deepest part of your being. That's why when he shows up, you feel as if you're being watched by something that sees beyond appearances. No matter how much you try to hide it, in front of the guardian, only the truth of your energy counts. For many, this is the moment dreams die. When they feel the impact of fear, the natural instinct is to retreat. The body reacts, the mind makes up excuses, and you convince yourself that now's not the right time. And that's exactly where most people get lost. The guardian wasn't defeated, he just waited quietly for another chance. And he'll test you again. But there's another way. Instead of running, you can choose to cross. And when that happens, when you face the guardian without giving in to panic, something different unfolds. What seemed like a total block starts to dissolve. It feels like crossing an invisible threshold, a point of no return. It's in that moment that the first glimpses of Thoth's secret begin to reveal themselves. The guardian isn't your enemy. He's the filter that separates those who merely wish to change from those who are truly ready to transform. Getting past him doesn't require brute force, but an inner clarity so strong that no trick of fear can dim it. And maybe that's exactly what he always wanted. Not to stop you, but to prepare you. The guardian stands before you now, ready to see if you're ready to listen. And when you meet that silent gaze, you start to realize something deeper. The fear that keeps him there wasn't born with you. It's not just the result of situations you've lived through. It feels like it's been in the air long before you were born, passed down from generation to generation, saturating families, cultures, entire societies. This is the hidden programming. An invisible network built from stories told so many times they became unquestionable truths. Narratives that shape what you believe is possible, that define what's safe and what's risky, that set the limits for how far you're allowed to go. They're seemingly harmless phrases you heard in childhood, fear-soaked advice, images from movies, news and conversations that reinforce the idea that the world is dangerous and you need to protect yourself at all costs. Over time, this programming seeps into your subconscious, creating automatic responses. You don't decide to be afraid, your mind reacts before you even think. It's like there's a conditioned reflex that blocks you from seeing life any other way. Thoth said that the human mind is like a mirror, but most people live staring at a distorted reflection, covered in a thick fog called fear. While that fog is present, no higher truth can reflect clearly. This process doesn't happen consciously. No one wakes up saying, "Today I'm going to install more fear in myself." The programming is subtle and silent. It's passed from parents to children, teachers to students, leaders to followers. It's reinforced when you see someone fail and hear they tried to go too far. It's strengthened every time a new tragedy is broadcast repeatedly until you believe that staying safe means never taking a risk. And the more this programming takes hold, the further you drift from your true essence. Little by little, you stop acting from creative impulse and start acting out of self-protection. Every step is calculated, every choice filtered by what might go wrong. Life stops being a journey of discovery and becomes a minefield where the goal is just to survive. But the truth is that fear isn't yours. It was placed there as part of a system that benefits when you live small, worried, and distracted. Because while you're busy dealing with invisible chains, you have no energy to question, to create, or to break free from what was imposed. When you realize this, something shifts. It's like, for the first time, a crack appears in the mirror. The fog begins to lift, and you start to see that the reflection was never complete. You begin to ask what lies behind it, what's beyond what you've been shown. Now that you see the trap, you can finally approach the secret with clear eyes. This is where Thoth revealed the first key, simple in form and deep in effect. He said that fear, like all invisible forces, only maintains its hold as long as it remains unnamed. When you expose it to the light of awareness, something in its structure fractures. It's like pulling the curtain back on a dark stage and realizing the massive monster was just a cardboard cutout, made bigger by shadows. The energy that sustained the terror loses the scaffolding that held it up. The first secret is this: name it to dissolve it. Acknowledge the fear, call it by its exact name, separate who you are from what you feel. When you do that, you remove fear from the throne and place it in the waiting room. It stops being an invisible tyrant who decides for you and becomes a temporary visitor knocking on the door and up close. It reveals its own limits. Visitors come and go, owners stay. When you name it, you remind fear that this house is yours. This act isn't just mental labeling, it's a ritual of presence. Imagine turning on a light in a room that's been closed for ages. The still air starts to move, dust begins to dance, shapes reappear. What looked like a threat was just a lack of light. By naming it, you flip your inner switch and restore shape to things. Instead of "I feel awful," you say "I notice a fear of being rejected when I share my ideas." Instead of "nothing ever works," you say "I sense a fear of failing when I get close to big opportunities." Precision is healing because the brain and body respond to what is specific. Thoth warned, for it to work, you have to observe without judgment. Judging is like throwing wet wood on the fire of clarity. The flame doesn't go out, but everything gets smoky. When you shame yourself for feeling fear, when you say "I shouldn't feel like this," you're strengthening the very web you're trying to escape. Neutrality isn't coldness, it's lucid compassion. It's saying to yourself, "I see what I feel and choose to care for it." From that point on, frozen energy begins to thaw, like ice giving way under steady warmth. Direct practice. Stop for a minute and place your hand at the center of your chest. Feel the temperature of your skin. Notice the weight of your palm. Invite your breath to drop just a little lower, just enough to create space between one thought and the next. Now ask, what's the name of what's showing up in me? Listen without rushing. Maybe it'll come as fear of not being good enough, fear of losing what I've achieved, fear of being truly seen. Say softly, "I acknowledge the presence of the fear of." Notice how your body reacts to hearing the truth spoken gently. Often the shoulders release, the jaw relaxes, the gaze softens. Naming shifts the body because it reorganizes the message it's receiving. If you want to go deeper, write it down. Pen and paper give shape to the invisible. At the top of the page, write the date and the context. Below, write "Today, I noticed the fear of when. I felt it in my body here." Locate it, track it. Finish with "Even so, I remain with myself." This creates an energetic contract. You're not trying to kick the visitor out by force. You're pointing out the chair where it can sit while you lead the meeting. Fear can be present, but it doesn't get to take the wheel. Naming also creates clear boundaries. It's like saying, "I see you and recognize your function, but this space is mine." Boundaries are doors. Without doors, everything floods in. With doors, you choose what enters, how long it stays, and where it leaves. In Thoth's language, naming is a key that shuts the passage between emotion and identity. You stop being the fear and become the one who sees fear arrive and leave. Use a gentle taxonomy. Give fear a last name to gain precision. Fear of exposure, fear of scarcity, fear of rejection, fear of messing up in public, fear of disappointing someone I love. The more specific, the more manageable. General fear feels huge. Specific fear fits in your hand. The mind works better with small pieces than with shapeless clouds. Include the body in the process. Where is it living right now? Tight throat, cold stomach, compressed chest, restless hands. Point to it with your finger, touch the spot. Say, "I notice you here." Directed presence at the point of tension is like warm water flowing over a knot. No forcing, no rushing. Just stay. 30 seconds of truth are often worth more than hours of escape. If the mind tries to sabotage with stories, go back to the simple fact. What's present is a fear of don't negotiate with narratives. Stay with the name and the sensation. There's a moment when something gives. It's subtle, but clear. Like a rope stretched too tight, finally loosening just a millimeter. That millimeter makes space for a centimeter. The centimeter makes space for a step. And a single step, here, can change destinies. Important to remember, naming doesn't create fear. It only reveals what was already at work. Just like a diagnosis doesn't invent a disease, it allows you to treat it. The right name is an antidote, not a magnet. By naming, you create space between stimulus and response. In that space, choice lives. And where there is choice, there is freedom to act differently than the old pattern demanded. With practice, you'll start to notice that fear wasn't the impossible wall it seemed to be. It was a thick curtain, well placed, hiding a passage. Once the curtain is pulled, the vision expands. There are no promises of a path without challenges, but there is certainty of walking with eyes open. And open eyes see doors where before there were only walls. But recognizing is just the threshold. The true leap begins when you learn how to remove fear from the body, pulling it out from where it hides like a silent root. Thoth said that fear is not just a thought, but a presence that settles in places where life has stopped flowing. And life, to him, was breath. Where air doesn't reach, fear makes a home. Where breathing is shallow and neglected, shadows expand. Fear thrives in rigidity, in the invisible tension that hardens muscles, blocks joints, and contracts the energy field until it closes in like a shell. When air stops moving freely, the mind gets cloudy, the body goes into alert, and the spirit forgets the memory of its own vastness. The second secret is conscious breathing, but not that hurried, automatic, nearly invisible breath we repeat without noticing all day long. It's a deliberate act, deep, intentional, almost a sacred rite. Inhale as if sipping liquid light. Feel the air slide down the throat, fill the chest, and gently reach the abdomen, expanding the lowest parts of the lungs areas that, for many people, stay dormant for years. Thoth advised that during this inhale, one should visualize a golden, glowing, living light entering with the oxygen, penetrating every cell, dissolving microtensions and clearing thoughts once shrouded in fog. And then comes the release. Exhale not just the air, but the fear it carries. Each breath out is like opening the windows of a dark room and letting thick smoke, gathered for years, escape. The exhale should be slow, long, controlled, until the body feels the letting go. In that moment, the nervous system receives a clear message, one not written in words, but in sensation: you are safe. And when that message is repeated, day after day, the automatic programming of alert fight or flight state that traps you in cycles of anxiety and depletion starts to dissolve like ice in the sun. But Thoth warned, this is not just a physical exercise, it's also vibrational. Air isn't just oxygen. It's a carrier of life, and where life enters, fear loses ground. That's why so many ancient traditions treated breath as a bridge between the visible and the invisible, a channel capable of clearing memories stuck in the body, releasing crystallized emotions, and restoring the vital flow. By breathing with presence, you not only renew the body but reconfigure the energy field, untying the knot that binds emotion to painful memory. This practice can be done anywhere in silence or in the middle of chaos, because the real secret isn't in the environment, but in your choice to pause and reconnect to your own center. When you choose to breathe with awareness, it's like turning on an inner light that shines into every forgotten corner of yourself. Some feel a gentle warmth spread through the chest. Others notice a tingling in the fingers or toes, like the body waking up from a long state of numbness. These signs aren't strange. They're confirmations that the vital flow has begun to move again where there was once stagnation. And when air starts to dance freely inside you, fear realizes it no longer has a place to hide. With the body free and breath flowing, something subtle starts to happen. The shadows that once felt solid become see-through, and in that space of clarity, you can finally understand what fear is really trying to reveal. Thoth said fear is not just a block, but a messenger dressed in shadows. It comes bearing precious information about what your heart most longs for, about desires so deep you don't even dare admit them to yourself. It's like an inverted mirror. Instead of showing directly what you want, it reflects the distorted image, showing the shadow of something that's actually at the core of your power. Picture someone who trembles just at the thought of speaking in front of a crowd. Heart racing, hands cold and clammy, voice on the verge of cracking before even starting. The instinct is to run, avoid exposure, believe this reaction is a sign to stay silent. But to Thoth, this inner turbulence isn't a warning to back down, it's the exact edge of a powerful desire to be seen, to be heard, to share something so true it could deeply resonate with others. In this case, fear is the frame around an unexpressed gift, an energy that, if directed, can turn vulnerability into magnetic presence. The same goes for someone afraid of failure. The choking feeling that it's not going to work is often the reflection of a huge aspiration, a calling to create something that goes beyond known limits. It's as if the mind itself tests your resolve, projecting the worst-case scenario not to crush you, but to measure the strength of your commitment. Fear, in this sense, works as the guardian of a sacred gate. Only those who keep moving forward despite the dread may pass. And then there's the fear of loss, maybe the deepest of all. It's not just discomfort with absence, but the expression of a love so intense that the idea of living without that thing or person feels unbearable. This fear is born from the awareness of real value, of how precious something or someone is in your life. It's a direct reflection of your capacity to connect, to care, to give yourself fully. Thoth taught that this kind of fear is paradoxically a reminder of your very ability to love in its purest form, and because of that, it holds the key to your greatest courage. He said fear is always a portal, a disguised doorway to an inner territory you haven't yet dared to explore. It's not there by accident, it's not a mistake on the path. It's an inverted arrow pointing to something valuable that lies just beyond the edge of what you know. When that realization lands, fear stops acting like a wall and starts behaving like fuel, a sign that you're getting close to the center of your power. And then something shifts in how it's felt. It stops ringing like an alarm of imminent danger and starts pulsing like a calling to walk through the fog, to open the door, to discover what's hiding behind it. In that moment, the question is no longer how to escape fear, but how to answer the invitation it brings. Because on the other side, there's always something waiting for you, and it can only be found when you have the courage to go through, to cross this portal. Surface-level courage isn't enough, the kind that takes one step and backs down at the first gust of wind. You need to light an inner fire, steady and constant, capable of transforming the very nature of fear. Thoth called this teaching the inner forge. Just like the alchemist places dark or into the crucible to reveal the hidden gold, the seeker learns to bring their densest emotions into the heat of awareness until they show the light they've always held. For Thoth, fear wasn't an enemy to be crushed, was raw material, heavy, crude, or loaded with latent energy, waiting for the right climate of attention, breath, and presence to transmute into clarity, strength, and direction. Contrary to the common belief that fear needs to be destroyed, he taught that the path is understanding. Keep fear in the fire of consciousness until its hardened structure softens and the content becomes visible. This fire doesn't burn to harm, it burns to reveal. It's the heat of steady, mindful attention that penetrates the layers where there was rigidity and gradually undoes the knot. The inner forge is not a spectacle or an act of violence. It's a delicate, patient, quiet work. The third secret begins the exact moment you decide to stay. When fear shows up, the automatic impulse is to escape, numb out, distract. The forge calls for the opposite. Stay. Feel the racing heartbeat without trying to slow it down by force. Acknowledge the tension in your shoulders and still don't run. Hear the chorus of thoughts trying to talk you into quitting and, gently, don't obey. You become the watchful blacksmith, observing the metal entering the furnace. You know every spark, every crackle is part of the process. For this, prepare your inner crucible. Sit with your spine alert, feet grounded, jaw relaxed, tongue resting on the roof of your mouth. Place one hand at the center of your chest and the other on your abdomen. Invite the breath to drop a little lower. Inhale through the nose, counting to 4. Feel the air expand the base of the lungs and belly. Hold for 2, just to sense the body full. Exhale for 6, slow and steady, like pouring warm water over tight fabric. Repeat a few times until a small space appears between you and the storm. Now, locate the fear in your body. Where is it living right now? Throat, solar plexus, stomach, lower back, hands. Point to it, touch the spot, and say softly the name it has today. Fear of messing up in front of someone I respect. Fear of losing what I've achieved. Fear of being fully seen. Naming it is placing the ore in the crucible. The touch lights the furnace. The breath is the bellows that feeds the fire. Stay for a few moments with gentle attention resting exactly on that point. Don't push, don't pull, just warm it with presence. It's common for waves of heat to rise, small tremors, quick memories, a desire to get up. All of that is the metal groaning as the temperature begins to work. The temptation will be to stop. Remind yourself, I stay, 3 simple words that keep the fire burning. I stay. In Thoth's view, fear is a block of cold metal. Conscious presence is the flame. With every breath cycle, the inner temperature rises 1/2 degree. First, the outer crust gives way. Then, the heat penetrates the center, breaking through a quiet resistance that once seemed eternal. There's an almost imperceptible moment when the solid begins to melt. The body feels it like a loosening of a belt, a bit more space inside, a quiet clarity. What was hard becomes pliable. What was frozen starts to move. That's when the liquid gold appears. Not literal gold, but vital energy that was trapped in the rigid form of fear. It shows up as calm, lucidity, grounded courage, an aligned impulse to act. Ideas that were once tangled become clear. Words that wouldn't come now flow. The chest, once tight, breathes deeper. Fear, which was a wall, becomes fuel. The same force that once blocked now pushes forward. The inner light switches on and illuminates the outline of a path that was already there but hidden. to help the metal take shape, offer direction. As you exhale, guide this newly freed energy with your imagination from where it was stuck to a part of the body that needs strength. Bring it from the solar plexus to the hands, if you need to speak or create, from the stomach to the legs, if you need to act in the world, from the chest to the eyes, if you need to see more clearly. The inner forge doesn't end with the melting, it culminates in conscious shaping. Thoth also reminded us that sometimes the furnace needs more than one cycle. Some fears are like ancient alloys, mixes of many stories. They melt in layers. You warm it today, rest, return tomorrow. Progress isn't measured by the total absence of discomfort, but by the ability to stay a little longer with a little more kindness and firmness each time. One essential care. Don't pull the metal from the fire too soon. Signs it's too early. The body is still tense. The breath is still shallow. The mind is still spinning. The urge to flee is calling the shots. Signs that the melting has begun. The breath finds rhythm. The body releases 2 or 3 tension points without effort. The mind opens a brief window of stillness, and a clear, simple impulse for the next step appears. If you're not there yet, stay. 2 more breath cycles. 1 more minute of presence. Gold doesn't rush. To seal the phase, acknowledge out loud what just happened. I felt fear here. I stayed. It softened. Now there's space. This phrase is the tempering of the metal. It gives memory to the experience, records the path back into the body. Over time, the forge gets faster. The brain learns you won't abandon it. The nervous system stops sounding the alarm so loud. Trust stops being just a concept and becomes a sensation. The inner forge is a pact with your essence, staying when the mind wants to run, breathing when the chest wants to close, looking when your eyes want to turn away. Bearing just the right amount of heat, not too little, not too much, till all that remains is light in liquid form, ready to be poured into aligned words and actions. Fear still exists in the world, but inside, it loses the throne. You hold the crucible, you regulate the fire, you choose the form, and in that quiet act, what was once an obstacle returns to its original function, energy in service of your truth. But gold only reveals its shine when exposed to the light of your truth, and this is exactly where Thoth's 4th secret begins to manifest. He said, the entire universe is woven from vibrations, and human speech is one of the most powerful tools to shape and reorganize that fabric. Every sound you speak is more than noise, it's a wave that spreads, moves through visible and invisible spaces, and leaves subtle but real imprints on the structure of life. According to Thoth, no word is ever lost. Every phrase carries an energetic seed, invisible to the eye, but alive. And like any seed, it doesn't stay still, sprouts, grows, and over time bears fruit that shows up in your experience. When you consciously or unconsciously speak phrases full of fear, insecurity, or doubt, it's like planting and watering daily in barren soil where nothing healthy can grow. These words don't just echo in the moment, they build up, forming vibrational walls around you, limiting your field of action, narrowing horizons that could have been wide open. Thoth explained that each word is like a note in a grand symphony. If one note is off-key, the whole ensemble loses harmony. And just like an orchestra can be led to play uplifting melodies or sad ones, your life also follows the score you dictate through your words. That's why verbal transformation is a true sound alchemy. It's not enough to silence the language of fear. You have to replace it with declarations that carry the frequency of what you want to bring into being. If the automatic mind whispers, "I can't do this," you have to plant the seed, "I am already capable," and move forward with confidence. This new phrase isn't just positive thinking. It's a direct program into the vibrational field that connects your mind to the physical world. The more intention and presence you put into your speech, the more energetic weight the word gains, as if cutting through invisible layers and being recorded in a kind of cosmic archive. That record doesn't sit idle. It acts as a point of attraction, adjusting circumstances, pulling in encounters, and opening opportunities aligned with the vibration you sent out. That's why ancient traditions used mantras, chants, and prayers. The wise knew sound shapes reality not by superstition, but through vibrational science. Thoth compared this process to tuning a precious instrument. A single off-key string can distort the entire melody, but when every word you speak is in tune with the harmony you want to live, the flow of life begins to respond. This alignment doesn't happen instantly for everyone. It's a daily, almost artisanal adjustment that requires attention, conscious repetition, and refinement until the new melody becomes natural. And when that happens, reality itself starts to sing with you. But even the most powerful words need to be backed by living action, and that's exactly where Thoth's fifth secret reveals its full strength. He said that no matter how aligned your thoughts are or how intentional your words, real transformation of reality only happens when the body moves in the direction of what's been declared. Because fear can resist thoughts for a long time, it can even build labyrinths to hide behind words. But it can't stand up to the impact of conscious movement. Thoth explained that the body is the altar where decision becomes real. When you act, even in a simple way, you send a direct message to your nervous system and the invisible field around you. I'm already on the path. That step doesn't have to be grand or dramatic. In fact, it's often the quietest gestures that start the biggest transformation, because they silently break the pattern of stagnation that had been building. It's like crossing a narrow bridge suspended over a valley. From a distance, it looks fragile, shaky, almost impossible to walk across. Fear screams, projecting images of falling, failing, danger. But as soon as you place your foot on the first plank, you realize the structure is sturdier than your mind wanted to believe. A simple act making that call you've been putting off for weeks, replying to a message you've been afraid to face, accepting an invite you'd usually decline, sharing an idea even with a shaky voice becomes an unmistakable sign to both you and the universe. I'm in charge of my journey. And the moment the command is given, a sequence of subtle movements begins to unfold. Inside, your body registers a new possibility. It's safe to move forward even with discomfort present. Your heartbeat adjusts, your breath finds a deeper rhythm, and small muscle tensions begin to release. Outside, the energy you emit shifts in tone, and the field around you responds. People appear, previously hidden opportunities become clear, and situations that once seemed closed begin to open. Thoth insisted that a single step aligned with your truth doesn't just change your own destiny. It ripples across the entire invisible web that connects all events. It's like tossing a small stone into a still lake. The waves stretch far beyond the point of impact, touching shores you didn't even know existed. Fear, in turn, tries to stay alive by projecting shadows and failure scenarios. It paints your mind with images so vivid you almost believe them. But the act of doing, imperfect as it may be, like turning on a bright light in a dark room, those terrifying shapes that seemed so huge are revealed to be just empty forms. Action turns fear into experience, and experience, no matter how small, becomes a solid brick of confidence. That's how courage gets stronger, not by waiting for fear to disappear before starting, but by starting so fear has no space left to occupy. Constant motion clears the way for your vital energy to flow freely, and every step you take becomes living proof that your life is responding to your conscious choice. And when you move like that, even with small steps, you start to access spaces fear simply can't reach. That's exactly where Thoth's sixth secret reveals itself, bringing to the surface one of his deepest, most transformative principles. Every choice changes the geometry of the path ahead. Life, according to him, is not a single straight road, but a massive network of parallel trails like glowing threads stretched across the fabric of time. Each thread leads to a different destiny, and although you're walking on one now, countless others surround you, ready to be accessed the exact moment your inner vibration shifts. Fear works like a weight tied to your feet, keeping you stuck on the same thread-repeating patterns, reliving the same experiences, running into the same types of obstacles, surrounded by the same limitations. It's like living in a stage play where the scenery is constantly rearranged, but the script never changes. The curtains swap, the lighting shifts, but the story stays the same. Courage, on the other hand, is like a silent, invisible portal. A single conscious act can transport you to a different stage where the light is new, the set is unfamiliar, and the script has been written for a higher version of who you are. Thoth said this shift is not just symbolic, it's physical and vibrational. To jump from one line to another, he taught a simple but deeply powerful exercise. Close your eyes and project yourself into the reality where fear doesn't exist. Not just imagine, but truly feel the living presence of that new version. Breathe like they breathe, see how they see, move how they move. Visualize with such clarity that you can smell the air of that new life, hear the sounds around you, maybe confident voices chatting, the echo of firm steps in an open space, birds singing in a place of peace, and notice the color intensity, the brightness of the sky, the texture of the ground under your feet. If you're seeking confidence, picture yourself speaking securely in front of anyone, feeling your voice's strength vibrating in your chest. If it's freedom you want, feel the fresh breeze on your face, as if each gust clears away what still weighs you down. If it's love, feel the warmth of a hug that, in this line, hasn't happened yet but in the other, is already real and part of your existence. The more alive this internal experience is, the more your body starts to respond as if it's already living in it. This practice, to Thoth, wasn't fantasy or escapism, but a method to tune your energy field to a future already existing in the plane of possibilities. When you can see and feel yourself in that state, your brain, your heart, and even your cells begin to emit signals that attract matching circumstances. And then, as if some invisible gear started turning, small impulses appear, an unexpected idea, an invitation, a seemingly random meeting that acts as natural steps in this transition. Before you even notice, you're no longer on the same thread. The conversations shift, The opportunities show up almost magically, and you begin to see that the world around you is responding to a new frequency. It's as if the universe had been waiting all along for your inner shift to redraw the scene, aligning it with the new version you chose to be. To stay in that new frequency, Thoth taught that gaining strength for a moment isn't enough. You have to cultivate it until it becomes a permanent part of who you are. Real progress doesn't mean fear will vanish forever. It often tries to come back, disguised as doubt, fatigue, or even excess caution. It's like the old timeline, the one you used to live on, sending invisible tentacles to pull you back into familiar territory. That pull, according to Thoth, is natural. Every deep change challenges old patterns, and those patterns fight to keep their place. That's where the seventh secret comes in, creating power anchors. An anchor, in Thoth's view, is a fixed point in space or time capable of keeping your mind and body connected to the expanded state you've already experienced. It's like marking a sacred place inside yourself, a spot you can return to whenever fear's tide starts to rise. That anchor can take simple or complex forms. It could be a unique, intentional gesture, like clenching your fists tightly, touching the center of your chest, or lifting your face to the skyvat. Repeated in the same emotional state becomes a trigger capable of reactivating that energy. It could be a physical object, like a smooth stone you carry in your pocket, a necklace, a ring, or any talisman that witnessed your courageous moments. Touching it awakens in your body the sensory memory of pushing through fear, as if the object holds a fragment of your strength. Thoth explained that in the ancient mystery schools, these anchors were often carved in stone, molded in metal, or drawn by hand on papyrus. They weren't just ornaments, but encoded symbols acting as vibrational keys. When the initiate looked at, touched, or spoke the sacred name linked to the symbol, they instantly reconnected to the frequency they had earned. It wasn't magic in the popular sense, it was a science of vibrational memory. The body and mind, conditioned to associate that stimulus with a state of power, responded immediately, recreating the internal posture and mental clarity needed to stay grounded. This practice can also be Some of Thoth's disciples used key words or specific mantras, kept secret, that when spoken with intention triggered an energetic memory so strong that fear lost its grip instantly. These words didn't need logical meaning. They just had to be soaked in the original emotion felt at the moment of breakthrough. The logic behind the technique is simple and deep. The brain doesn't fully distinguish between what's happening now and what's being intensely recalled. If you've trained your body to associate a gesture, an object, or a word with courage and clarity, just activating that trigger can reignite your inner flame without needing to fight the fear emotionally every single time. It's like lighting a torch that's already ready, instead of having to build the fire from scratch. Over time, these anchors stop being just emergency tools and become silent guardians of your new reality. They keep your vibration field clean, prevent backslides, and help solidify the habit of living in your highest frequency. They're like lighthouses in the storm. Even when the fog of doubt clouds your vision, the light stays on, showing the way. And every time you follow it, you reaffirm to yourself that the power is already within you, not as something to earn again, but as something that's already part of who you've become. But there's something even more dangerous than fear itself. Fear, at least, announces its presence. It pounds in your chest, speeds up your heart, tightens your muscles, and sends clear signals that it's there. You feel it. You know when it's wrapped around you. But there's an enemy that doesn't trigger the same alarms, doesn't startle you the same way. A silent thief, almost invisible, that slips in without resistance. Forgetfulness. It doesn't knock. It doesn't drag chains or scream to be noticed. It just moves in quietly, step by step, and begins to take up space inside you until, without realizing it, you fall back into the same old patterns you thought you had left behind forever. This forgetfulness is not simply the loss of a memory or the erasing of a lesson. It's much more subtle and dangerous. It's allowing the thread of attention to break, letting the sharpness of your presence dissolve into the fog of automatic routine. It's when you let habit take the wheel again, and the actions that once were conscious become mechanical movements, repeated without soul. It's giving in to autopilot, which pushes you to repeat the same results. At this point, fear doesn't even need to push you back. You walk backward on your own, convinced you're just resting or waiting for the right time. Thoth said, "This thief is more efficient than any visible enemy because it operates in the shadows of daily life. It wears harmless masks, the tiredness you call natural, the laziness that feels deserved, the pause that stretches beyond what's necessary." It shows up as a tempting invitation to delay, and what began as a simple minute of distraction stretches into a day, then a week, then a month. Before you know it, the flame that once seemed eternal dimmed slowly until all that's left is a timid ember, smothered by the weight of inertia. The secret is to notice the signs before they become chains. The procrastination that shows up for no real reason, just as an echo of inner resistance. The excessive self-pressure that paralyzes instead of motivating, feeding guilt instead of growth. The exhaustion that isn't of the body but of the soul, drifting away from its own energy source. Each of these signals is a whisper from deep within, a warning call saying, "Careful, something's pulling you down." Recognizing these signs is like waking from a dream where everything seemed normal, but something deep down felt off. It's opening your eyes and realizing life isn't where you left it, but sliding back to a place you swore you'd never return to. And in that moment of clarity, you remember, you can't let go of what you fought so hard to build. Because the moment consciousness returns, the choice is back in your hands. And it's exactly at this point, when the risk is highest and attention is everything, that Thoth's next secret reveals itself. And to quickly recover your power, Thoth left a secret of light he considered one of the purest keys for inner renewal. He called it the solar practice. It wasn't just a breathing or meditation exercise, but a direct meeting with the very source that sustains all forms of life. For him, the sun wasn't just a celestial body floating in emptiness. It was a living, vibrational gateway, a bridge between the human and the divine, projecting onto Earth a constant stream of energy powerful enough to dissolve even the deepest traces of fear hiding in the corners of the mind. The ideal moment for this connection is not midday, when the light is harsh and imposing, but rather the delicate moments of sunrise or sunset. At these times, the light doesn't harm or dominate, it caresses. It's a kind of light that seems to understand both body and soul. As you stand facing the horizon, whether in an open field, by the sea, or simply at a window where you can see the sky transform, you feel the cool air sliding into your lungs. bringing the scent of morning or the stillness of day's end. Then the first or last rays rest on your skin like invisible fingers, warm and soft, sending signals that penetrate the surface, pass through your muscles, and reach your bones. Deep inside, this light doesn't attack the shadows violently, it embraces them, surrounds them, and warms them until they lose strength and dissolve on their own. Thoth taught that, in this moment, breath is the channel that opens the way for transformation. With every inhale, you imagine drawing in liquid light, golden and alive, filling every cell, every empty space within you, and with each exhale, everything that doesn't belong to your essence, the fear that paralyzes, the tensions that tighten, the doubts that weaken is released like fine dust, carried away by the wind. It's a gentle yet deep process that doesn't require physical effort or extreme willpower, just surrender and presence. With practice, perception begins to expand. Little by little, you stop feeling like you're simply standing in front of the sun and start sensing that something within it is also looking at you. Its glow seems to recognize your own. Your breath aligns with the invisible rhythm the light carries, a silent pulse that moves the tides, opens flower buds, and warms life at its most intimate core. Your heart begins to beat in sync with a greater rhythm, a sound not heard with ears, but with the whole body, and in that state, fear simply finds no space to root itself, because where there is fullness of light, shadow dissolves without effort. For Thoth, this ritual was not just an energetic technique. It was a living reminder, a daily call to remember that, just like the sun always returns with each new dawn, courage too can be renewed every single day. No matter what happened yesterday, there will always be a new sunrise to reignite your strength and reopen the path. But there's still the final secret, the one Thoth called the crowning of all others, the one that transforms knowledge into invincibility. He called it conscious surrender. To him, there was no greater act of power than the ability to let go. And letting go, in its deepest sense, didn't mean abandoning the path or giving in to apathy. It meant freeing yourself from the obsessive need to control every step, every outcome, every detail. It's like slowly opening a hand that's held on so tightly that the fingers became stiff, allowed the universe to reorganize what you could never align on your own. When all the previous secrets are applied, the energy that once was trapped in the fight against fear begins to move freely through the body, mind, and soul. At that point, holding on tightly not only becomes useless, it creates a block against the natural flow of life itself, the same flow that's trying to carry you forward with more grace and precision than any calculated plan could. Conscious surrender is, therefore, an act of supreme trust in the invisible intelligence that sustains everything, the same force that brings the sun over the horizon without you having to ask, that keeps your heart beating even as you sleep, and that ensures every seed sprouts at exactly the right moment. Thoth taught that to access this state, you must create a moment of absolute silence, like an altar within. Choose a space where the world can't reach you, where noise can't enter. Breathe deeply, feeling the air move through your body like a slow river, and begin to relax each tension point, one by one. Feel your shoulders release, your chest open, the weight of your head rest. When control begins to melt away like ice in the sun, say with calm and clarity, "I release control. I trust the flow of truth." This phrase, for Thoth, wasn't just an affirmation, it was an energetic decree, a signal to the universe authorizing greater forces to act on your behalf, repositioning the pieces of your life in ways your logical mind could never have planned. The moment this declaration is spoken with authenticity, something subtle happens. It's like an invisible door opens in your field, connecting your intention to the vast ocean of possibilities. The answer doesn't always arrive like a lightning strike. Often, it shows up as a dance of synchronicity's small meetings, repeated signs, opportunities appearing where there were once blocks. That's when you realize conscious surrender isn't passivity. It's active participation in a flow infinitely more intelligent than reason. You stop fighting the current and begin moving with it, discovering that what lies ahead is bigger, more precise, and more beautiful than anything human control could have created. And when you surrender, something deep and irreversible unfolds. The invincible state starts to reveal itself before you, like a horizon that was always there but that now, finally, you can see clearly, without the fog of illusion. It's in that moment that you understand. True strength isn't about crushing or defeating fear, but dissolving the power it had over your decisions, breaking the silent agreement that kept your life limited. Fear stops being an invisible warden and becomes just a messenger, a signal pointing toward what is still unexplored, a part of your inner or outer world that's asking to be crossed. In that realization, you discover that invincibility doesn't mean being untouchable or living in a world without challenges. It means no longer allowing any shadow, internal or external, to have authority over your destiny. It's knowing that fear may appear, but it no longer has permission to guide your choices. You stop reacting and start creating, turning every situation into a step that lifts you up instead of dragging you down. When Thoth's 9 secrets intertwine within you, they become something much greater than a set of techniques. They form a living, pulsing code that acts as a spiral of energy sustaining your essence. Each secret feeds and protects the others, creating a solid inner foundation that doesn't shake in the face of external circumstances. It's like a silent fortress rising inside, not to isolate you from the world, but to allow you to walk through it with safety and clarity, even when the winds are strong. From that point on, challenges are no longer seen as threats, but as invitations to expand awareness. That's the essence of invincibility, to live rooted in your center, where life's tides may shift suddenly, but your presence remains steady, stable, and awake. Fear may still show up, but it no longer finds fertile ground to take root. Your inner soil has been prepared, cleared, and nourished so that only courage, clarity, and presence can grow. Your decisions start being guided by a broader vision, where there's no space for strategies that are only meant to avoid pain. Instead, there's a commitment to truth and integrity, even if that means walking through storms. You understand, in an almost sacred way, that you're not here to run from challenges, but to move through them in such a way that your very steps carve a path for others who are still learning how to carry the weight of fear. Thoth taught that the one who reaches invincibility becomes a bearer of an invisible torch, flame that never goes out and lights not only their own path, but also reveals hidden passages for all those walking nearby. This light isn't an ornament or a burden. It's a silent, almost inevitable calling to guide, inspire, and open doors where there were once only walls. And so you realize that your mission was never to avoid fear, It's always been, from the very beginning. To learn how to walk through it with such integrity that others can follow in your footsteps and find, within themselves, the same invincible state that now lives in you. If you made it this far, I want you to leave in the comments the phrase, "Fear doesn't command me," so I know you've walked through this journey all the way to the end. That means a lot to me because it shows that this message touched you in some way. And if you want to support the channel more directly, in the first pinned comment, there's a special link to contribute and help me spread more content like this out there. Any help you can give is very important to me and to the growth of the channel. But just the fact that you made it to the end already helps a lot. You can also share this video with someone who needs to hear this message today. And before you go, I picked a special video just for you. Don't leave yet. Click the video that's showing on the screen right now, and I'll meet you there so we can continue this transformation.